People don't share what they understand. They share what they feel. And this simple truth is the reason so many businesses struggle with marketing. It's not your product, it's not your service, and it's not even how hard you're working. It's the fact that your message isn't making people feel something worth sharing. Hi, this is Farhat, and I help business owners and real estate leaders grow faster, without stress or burnout, by sharing what I've learned from 20 years in sales, marketing, and human behavior. And stay with me until the end, because I want to give you a free resource that can help you understand the deeper behavior behind why people click, trust, share, and buy. A lot of business owners hit a point where they feel like they are doing everything right, but somehow growth slows down anyway. They're posting content, trying new platforms, testing new ideas, maybe even hiring people, but nothing seems to create real momentum. They stay busy all day, but the results feel random. One week something works a little, the next week it dies. And when that happens, the natural reaction is to do more. More posts, more ads, more tools, more tactics, more noise. But the truth is, more tactics without deeper understanding usually creates more confusion, not more growth. That is where viral marketing psychology becomes so important. Because when you understand why people share things, why they react, why they talk, why they remember, and why they pass something on, your marketing changes completely. You stop guessing. You stop creating content just because someone said it is trending. You stop copying what everyone else is doing, and you start building messages that actually move people. Here's the core idea I want you to really let sink in. Viral marketing is not magic. It is not luck, and it is not just about being funny, outrageous, or shocking. At the heart of every piece of content that spreads is emotional movement. Something inside the viewer shifts. They laugh. They feel seen. They get angry. They feel inspired. They feel smarter. They feel connected. They feel like, yes, this is exactly what I've been thinking. And the moment that emotional shift happens, sharing becomes much more likely. Think about your own behavior. The last time you sent a video to a friend, shared a post in a group, or reposted something on social media, you probably did not do it because the content was simply informative. You did it because it triggered something. Maybe it was funny and you wanted someone else to laugh too. Maybe it was powerful and you wanted people to wake up. Maybe it explained something in a way that made you feel understood. Maybe it made you feel like sharing it would say something about who you are. That is the secret. People share content for emotional reasons first. That matters because most business marketing is still built backwards. A lot of content starts with features, facts, explanations, and polished brand language. But facts alone rarely travel. Information alone rarely spreads. Logic may help people justify a decision later, but emotion is what creates motion in the first place. Emotion gets attention. Emotion creates memory. Emotion starts conversation. Emotion makes someone stop scrolling, and emotion makes them want to bring someone else into the experience. Now let's go deeper, because not all emotions work the same way. Joy is one of the strongest sharing triggers because people naturally want to pass good feelings along. When something makes people smile, laugh, or feel hopeful, they share it because sharing becomes part of the emotional experience. It's like saying, "You need to see this too." That is why funny clips, uplifting stories, unexpected kindness, and feel-good transformations often spread so fast. They make people feel lighter, and passing that feeling on feels good. Surprise is another huge trigger. The brain is wired to notice what breaks expectation. When something is unexpected, it creates a little jolt of attention. That surprise makes content feel fresh. It creates curiosity. It makes people want to show others because it feels new, interesting, and worth talking about. This is why opening lines matter so much. If your message starts in a way people have heard 1,000 times before, they move on. But when you lead with something that flips a common belief, reveals a hidden truth, or creates a curiosity gap, you pull people in emotionally before they even realize it. Anger and outrage also spread fast, and this is where things get very real. People share things that upset them because it gives them a way to express identity, values, and emotion all at once. They want others to know what they stand against. They want to join a bigger conversation. This is powerful, but it needs to be handled carefully. Yes, outrage can create reach, but if your brand builds everything on negativity, you may get attention without trust. You may get reaction without loyalty. So the goal is not to manufacture anger. The goal is to understand that strong emotional intensity drives movement, and then use that truth ethically. Another trigger that drives sharing is fear of missing out. When people think something is useful, urgent, or socially important, they share quickly because they do not want others to be left behind. You see this when people post breaking news, new trends, early opportunities, limited offers, or practical advice that feels time-sensitive. They are not just sharing content. They are sharing relevance. They are saying, this matters right now. But here is where most people stop too early. They look at emotions only as reactions. People do not just share because something made them feel something. They also share because sharing helps them express identity. This is one of the most overlooked parts of marketing psychology. When a person shares your content, they are not just spreading your message. They are also sending a message about themselves. That means every share is personal. Someone shares a smart business insight because they want to be seen as informed. Someone shares a funny post because they want to be seen as fun. Someone shares a bold opinion because they want to be seen as confident or socially aware. Someone shares a story about perseverance because they want to be associated with resilience, heart, or growth. In other words, your content becomes a tool people use to tell the world who they are. This is why identity and social validation matter so much in viral marketing. Human beings want connection. They want belonging. They want to feel seen. And they want approval from the groups they care about. So when your content helps someone strengthen their identity, signal their values, or feel part of something, it becomes much more shareable. This is also why shallow content often fails. It may be technically correct. It may even look polished. But if it does not connect with the deeper emotional and identity-based reasons people share, it just sits there. No movement, no real conversation, no ripple effect. That brings us to one of the biggest growth killers for businesses: misalignment between marketing and emotional engagement. This happens all the time. A business believes it is communicating clearly, but the audience feels nothing. The brand talks about quality, experience, and excellence, but the customer is wondering, do you understand me? Do you understand what I'm struggling with? Do you understand what I really want? If the message stays at the level of product language and never enters the emotional world of the customer, the connection stays weak. Let me say that another way. Customers do not buy products just because they exist. They buy meaning. They buy relief. They buy hope. They buy confidence. They buy status. They buy convenience. They buy transformation. They buy a better version of their life, business, or identity. So if your marketing only explains what something is, but never touches what it means, you will always struggle to create momentum. This is especially true for established businesses that have hit a ceiling. At that stage, the problem usually is not lack of effort. It is lack of clarity. There is often no simple system for understanding what content is resonating, what emotional triggers are working, what stories are landing, and why people are responding the way they are. Without that, businesses start running in circles. They keep testing random tactics without a deeper strategy holding everything together. And this is where storytelling becomes one of the most powerful tools you have. Stories are emotional containers. They take ideas that might feel abstract and make them human. A story helps people see themselves. It creates tension, meaning, and resolution. Instead of saying, our service saves time, a story shows what it feels like to be overwhelmed, stuck, frustrated, and then finally relieved. That emotional journey creates connection in a way plain facts never can. When people hear a story, they drop their guard. They stop feeling like they are being marketed to and start feeling like they are being understood. That is a massive difference. And when the story reflects their own pain, hope, ambition, or fear, they lean in even more. That is what makes content memorable. That is what makes people say, this is exactly me. Visuals help too, of course, because emotion lands faster when people can see it. A face, a reaction, a contrast, a transformation, a moment of tension, a moment of relief. These all increase emotional impact. But visuals are only powerful when they support the emotional core. A flashy image without emotional relevance is just decoration. A simple visual tied to a real feeling is powerful. So how do you turn all of this into a system instead of just another idea? You start by paying attention to patterns. Look at your best content and ask deeper questions. What emotion did it trigger? What identity did it support? What made people comment, save, or share? Was it the surprise, the honesty, the relatability, the bold truth, the personal story, the practical relief? Most businesses never do this work. They look at views, likes, and reach, but they do not study the psychology behind the response. Once you begin seeing those patterns, you can create content more intentionally, not mechanically, but strategically. You can build a content calendar around emotional themes your audience actually cares about. You can use stronger hooks. You can tell better stories. You can create posts that feel like they were made for real human beings, not just for an algorithm. Then you review consistently, not once in a while, regularly. Which messages are creating shares? Which stories are creating trust? Which topics spark real conversation? Which ones fall flat? This review process matters because viral success is rarely one lucky piece of content. It usually comes from repeated learning. You get clearer over time. You start understanding your audience at a much deeper level, and that understanding becomes a competitive edge. You also need a clear definition of success. Is it more shares, more comments, more leads, more website traffic, more direct messages, more qualified conversations? Viral content without business relevance can become a distraction. The goal is not just to get attention. The goal is to create attention that aligns with trust, relevance, and growth. That is why emotional strategy has to connect to business strategy. And I think this is where a lot of smart business owners finally breathe a little easier. Because once you understand this, you realize you do not need to be everywhere. You do not need to copy every trend. You do not need to chase every new tactic. What you need is a clear message, emotional alignment, strong stories, and simple systems that help you repeat what works. That is when growth starts feeling less chaotic. You stop forcing content and start creating with purpose. You stop talking at your audience and start connecting with them. You stop relying on luck and start building a real process. And from there, something powerful happens. Your audience begins to do the heavy lifting for you. They start sharing, they start talking, they start remembering. They start bringing other people into your world because what you created made them feel something real. So if your marketing has felt flat lately, or if growth has slowed and you are not sure why, step back and ask yourself a better question. Not what tactic should I try next, but what emotional truth am I failing to connect with? Because when you find that answer, everything changes. Your message gets sharper. Your content gets stronger. Your audience responds differently. And the path forward becomes much clearer. And just like I promised, I want to leave you with a free resource that fits this topic perfectly. It's the Behavioral Marketing ebook from our asset library. And it's a great next step if you want to better understand the human behavior behind attention, trust, influence, and action. You can use it to sharpen the way you think about your audience and the way you build content that actually connects. Book a call with us if you're serious about taking your business to the next level. And if you found this video helpful, hit the like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs it.